Hey YouTube, I have another deck tech for you. This one is based off of the Soul Sisters Modern Skeleton, but it has a twist because it actually drains life from your opponents as well. This deck is not really quick, but it is a long-lasting deck. It actually makes games go on for a couple of turns more than you're used to, but it is a fun deck to play, mainly because it is slow and a lot of people may not like it. So I know a lot of slow decks are generally control decks, but this one actually just drains your opponent's life very slowly, and they really can't do anything about it at the end. So try it out. It is kind of pricey on the price side, but you can definitely find some subs and have the deck still work out pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the creatures of this deck. As most Soul Sister decks have, they have Norin the Wary because of his flickering ability. I have 3 of these. Go ahead and focus this. There you go. Norin the Wary is pretty good because he is a recurable creature that keeps on coming back anytime a player plays a spell or basically anybody attacks. So this guy will be blinking by himself quite often. So he triggers your Soul Sisters a lot and your soul draining creatures as well. So we have 3 of these. Then we have a full playset of Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant. So these are really important because you do want to get your life going as quickly as possible. So you do have a playset of both of them. And if you do get at least 2 in your hand, which you most likely will, you will get a decent amount of life in the beginning of the game to help buffer against any aggro decks you might go against. And it will definitely help you out early in the game. Next we have 3 Blood Arists. Blood Arists are great because you will actually be having a lot of creatures die in this deck, and you will see why in a second. But again, Blood Artist has the cool life draining ability where whenever a creature dies, target player loses life and you gain a life. So again, you're gaining life in the process. They're slowly losing theirs, and this is one of those end game cards that you will need at the end. Then we have a playset of Bloodseekers. Bloodseekers are great because depending on the deck you play, of course, you want to sideboard them out if you're playing against Control or Burn. But the thing is, Bloodseeker is great anytime you're playing any deck with creatures. The most opponents, when they see it, the first couple times they'll see it and be like, oh, I lose a couple of life here and there. But if you actually get 1 or 2 of these out and they leave it alone, it does add up at the end. And so this, in combination with another card we'll see in a sec, really does add up, and people really fail to realize how powerful these cards can be. Next we have 2 Divinity of Pride. This is more of a game ender just in case you're playing against any cards or decks that seem to control you very well or anything like that. Since this deck will gain you a decent amount of life, you will most likely have the +4/+4 ability, making this guy an 8/8 flyer and lifelink. So this is a good finisher, and I definitely recommend at least 2 of these. Next we have 4 Suture Priest, going along with the life gain and the life drain theme. Definitely you will want a couple of these so that as you keep on bringing out your creatures, ignoring theirs, you're gaining life, they're losing their life, and again, it all adds up at the end. And then the last of the creatures, we have 3 Mentor of the Meeks. Most of the creatures in this deck definitely have power less than 2, and you will be drawing cards. So those are the creatures of this deck. I know a lot of the creatures are not really amazing by themselves, but this is one of those decks where if you actually just play them all just quietly to yourself and you slowly build up your army, you will actually win out at the end. And don't worry about wraths, because we do have a response to wraths as well. For non-creature spells, we have a playset of Zealous Persecution. These are very important because it is a surprise tactic, especially if you want to come up with a couple blockers just in case, just to help your side out for a couple more turns. And if you're playing against tokens or anything like that, these definitely wipe out their side very well. I think this card is actually quite good, especially for 2 converted mana costs. And I am very well pleased whenever I play this card, especially when I have a lot of creatures out. Next we have Killing Wave. We have 1 of these. This is actually mainly for 1 of the lands that I have in this deck, which I will show you in a sec. but one of the things is as your opponent starts losing life and they're less than 10 or so, they will be very careful and cautious about paying life to save some of the creatures. Sure, they'll save maybe one, but if you actually get this late in the game and you paid a high price for it, very unlikely they will pay the life price for this. We have one Swords of Plowshares. Of course, this is not modern legal, so you can always replace this with Path to Exile. Genesis Chamber we have in. You can go ahead and put 2 of these in because the amount of mirror artifact tokens you will get in combination with your Soul Sisters, you will gain a lot of life. Also, if you happen to have the Blood Seekers and whatnot and Suture Priest, your opponent will not like the life loss getting all these mirror tokens. For more removal, we have 2 Dismembers. There is black in this deck. However, paying 4 life in a life gain deck is very small, and you will most likely like using these. In response to rats, we have 2 Return to the Ranks. This is great because a lot of your cards, your creatures in this deck do have converted mana cost 2 or less, and they bring them back onto the battlefield as well. So this is a very good card, especially against rats. For the final 2 cards, we have Goblin Bombardment. This is great because if you want to have your final bits of damage, especially after you drain them for over a couple of turns, Goblin Bombardment is great because you just sack your entire battlefield and deal the last points of damage that you really need to finish them off. Finally, we have the lands. For this deck, I've chosen to put in 4 Nomad Outposts because it is a tricolor deck. So go ahead and put it in play set of these. And don't worry if they come into play tapped. I know it does make the deck feel kind of slow, but again, after playing this deck for a couple of times, the life that you gain back really does help out quite a bit. The 4 pricey cards in this deck is Forbidden Orchard, and I put this in this deck mainly because of 2 things. One, it does help out with the mana. It does fix your mana very well, and the fact that you actually give your opponents 1/1 Spirit token is great because you gain life. If you happen to have at least 2 Soul Sisters, just giving them a Spirit nets you 2 life, and most likely they'll attack with the Spirit, but that only loses 1, so you're gaining life at that point. Also, if you happen to have the Blood Seekers out and you have all the other soul draining cards out, they're losing life every time they have a Spirit. So if you're losing 4 life for 1 Spirit token, it's a really bad deal for them. You're gaining life also, and it's a really good deal for you. So Forbidden Orchards are great. If you can't afford them, sorry, can't really say what else to sub in with, but I know from the Vaults version of Forbidden Orchards are kind of cheap compared to the older ones. So go ahead and put these in and see the difference because it really does, and this really makes the deck. Next, I have 2 Kher Keeps. I mainly put this for the Kobold tokens to get you life just in case. If you are just drawing cards, if you're just drawing lands most of the time, you can just add the mana and make yourself some Kobold tokens to get yourself some life. And the rest we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plains, and we have 5 swamps. So again, this deck, it is very not quick, or it's a long drawn out deck, but it is one of those decks that are a lot of fun. I definitely do enjoy playing against it. I have actually played against Thrun aggro decks, and I was able to survive like a Thrun with a couple of swords equipped and a couple of rancors enchanted onto it, and I was still able to survive and win at the end just by slowly chipping away at their life. And you could tell my opponent was pretty frustrated with it. So overall, I think the deck is not too expensive as well. I think it will fit under $100, and it's definitely a lot of fun to play. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck. Please comment below if you have any additions or anything that you would recommend that I take out. But try it out. Tell me how you guys think about it. Thanks for watching.